Welcome to this meeting of the Staffordshire Sacre. I'm going to do something which some of you may not be expecting immediately, which is to vacate the chair. I have to hand over to Simon, who's going to conduct the proceedings.
Thank you very much, Michael. I know you said chair then, Michael. So the first part of today's meeting is to appoint the chair and the vice chair, which we do at every November meeting. So in the first... Yes, okay, well that's wonderful. So you're aware, Michael is happy to stand again as chair. Now Mary can't be the vice chair because Mary is officially an officer. So let's start with the chair. So Michael is happy to stand again. We've had a proposer. Could we have a seconder? Yep, thank you, Lauren. So that's passed. So welcome back, Mr. Chair. In terms of vice chair, Lauren is our current chair, and she has indicated that she's happy to remain in that position. So could I have a proposer? Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you very much. And just for openness, I'm assuming there's nobody else who'd like to put themselves forward for those positions. We're happy with those. Yeah, wonderful. That's absolutely. Back to you then, Chair. Thank you very much.
And I'm going to invite everybody to just say very briefly who they are and which committee they're on, because this is the beginning of the annual cycle, really, and it's a good reminder to us each of what the structure of a SACRE is. And can I, first of all, not only introduce Simon, who's been our support from the local authority for a year or two now, I think. And by his side is Joe, who is going to take over from Simon, but is going to shadow him for this meeting and the next one. So welcome to both of you, and thank you for your support. I'll introduce myself. Michael Metcalfe. I represent the Church of England. I'm a retired vicar. I live in Staffordshire, or in Stafford itself, which makes it very convenient to meet here. But we're grateful to the local authority for providing these premises, which are to save money, really, so that we don't have to pay for the rental of anywhere else. But it's very good to be hosted here, but it means that we're in a semi-formal kind of setup, which makes interaction and conversation a little bit more difficult. We do ask people to use these because it's easier to hear when people do use the mics. And if anybody is really hard of hearing, there is an actual loop earphone behind the screen here, which people can use as well. So I'll go around clockwise. Next to me is...
My name is Mary Gale, and I'm the advisor to SACRE on behalf of Staffordshire County Council and Intrust. I run my own company called Mary Gale Consultancy, and I've been commissioned to support SACRE by Staffordshire County Council and Intrust. I've been a member of SACRE for about 25 years, but not in this role, sitting where you were when I was quite young, and did all the wrong things in all the wrong places. But now I'm getting used to it. Thank you.
And I should say that we welcome 3 visitors to us this afternoon who are going to be presenting to us in a moment. Do you want to say anything a bit about yourselves now, or would you like to say something when you present? I think introduce yourselves when you make your presentation, if that's all right, well, because that'll be coming immediately afterwards, I think. Thank you.
Formally, Paul Northcott, County and Borough Councillor for Newcastle Rural and Newcastle Loggerheads Ward. I'm the support cabinet member for the Staffordshire County Council.
I'm Gabi Oldfield, and I represent the Stafford Quaker group.
I'm Lauren Nicholson-Ward. I represent the Church of England, and I'm an assistant head and teacher of RE in Stone.
Philip Atkins, County Councillor for Toxteth Rural. I'll leave all the rest of it off.
Paul Snape, County Councillor for Cannock Town Centre, former Chairman of the County Council. For 14 years I was a governor at Cardinal Griffin Catholic High School in Cannock. It has now become an academy, so you no longer need a local authority governor. So I'm now a governor at St Luke's Church of England School in Cannock.
Good afternoon, I'm Kath Perry, County Councillor, District Councillor and Parish Councillor for the South Staffordshire. I represent Essington, Chesley-Nay and Great Worley. Thank you.
Sam Kerwin, St Dominic's Grammar School, representing the NEU, so I'm on Committee C.
Part of this is exercise is to get people to be used to using these, but I think we're all more or less familiar with these now. Well, thank you very much, and again, welcome to everyone who is here. First of all, the apologies. We've had apologies from Sam Phillips, I know.
Yes, so we received a few apologies, unfortunately, for this meeting, but they are Linda Goodwin, Dr. Paniasiri, Sam Phillips, Sean Miles, Maddie Bell, Zoe Cahalan, Vicky Priestley and Mike Wilcox, although Mike is actually in the building in another meeting, and if he can, he will join us as soon as that meeting finishes.
That's very good, thank you.
We've also received apologies from Judy Wyman, and I've left Judy till the end. She may be watching, but Judy has been quite poorly. So on behalf of SACRE, I just wanted to send our best wishes for a speedy recovery, and hopefully she'll be at the next meeting.
Yes, may we endorse that we wish Judy a very speedy recovery, and we look forward to seeing her at the next meeting. Judy is a very active member of SACRE, and we do welcome her participation. She represents one of the teacher unions, and it's good to have that kind of professional side as well. We're also very well supported by county councillors, so we do appreciate that also. And for once, the Church of England is not in a majority, which at least we've got two of us here, Lauren. Okay, that's good. Are we actually on public view at the moment? We are being viewed by the public. If anybody wants to look in, they can see us here. So that's why we say that if Judy is watching, we send her our very best wishes. Judy. Okay. I don't think we have any new members as such to welcome, do we?
No, Chair, we don't. We actually do have a new representative of the Church of England, and I've just changed my screen, so bear with me 2 seconds, I do apologise. Lindsay Jennings,
yeah.
who I was anticipating being at the meeting today, but I haven't. Somebody's coming through the door. We may have.
Yes.
Hello.
Well, there we go. A new member has joined us.
Sorry, is this... yes. 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 Just to go through the nuts and bolts here, Julie has been the representative of the Baha'i community for a number of years, I think now, but has moved somewhat away from the area and is seeking to hand over to Jackie, but there is a process to go through. So Jackie is here as an observer, as a member of the public. Every person in the public has the right to be here because this is a public meeting. So welcome, and we look forward to the process going through in due course. In order for a person to become a member of a SACRE group, they have to be nominated by an official body, whether it's a union, a faith denomination, or at the county council in the case of county councillors. And these have to go through to the cabinet member for approval. So it is quite a formal process. And we are all here representing one stakeholder group or another. And that is why religious education is structured in the way it is, because it is locally determined, and we are the local communities and stakeholders that are responsible for overseeing it. And that's our main task. We've got item 4, declaration of any other business, but we put this in just in case anybody has got something urgent that they wish to discuss. We've been reminded in the past that we're a meeting of a committee, a subcommittee of the County Council, and the County Council meetings do not allow for any other business as a rule. So we put this in here just in case. And certainly not any other business as a tag-on sort of afterthought at the end of a meeting. Okay. If anything goes astray, we're kept in order very properly. So let's move on then to the minutes of the last meeting, which have been distributed. And I'll go through these quickly to make sure that we're happy with the accuracy of them. Anything on page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5 and 6 and 7. Quite a lot of meetings, minutes of the meeting, and it goes on to page 9 even. If there are no comments on the accuracy of the meetings, and we're grateful to Simon for a very thorough report of the meeting, may I have your approval to sign these as a true record? Okay, thank you very much.
Matters arising.
Right, okay. As a matters arising, on item page 5, you'll see that there's a reference to in the middle of the page, update on St Chad's Pattingham application for the RE quality mark, and they've been successful in attaining the quality mark. Which metal was it? It was gold, the gold quality mark. And it says here that the school would be invited to join SACRE at the November 2023 meeting to share their experiences, which is what we're inviting them to do now. So please, would you like to introduce yourselves and then tell us a little bit about what's been happening?
Right. Hello, I'm Sarah Yeomans. I'm the head teacher of St Chad's Church of England First School in Pattingham, which is on the Staffordshire, Shropshire, Wolverhampton border. I am Lichfield Diocese born and bred. I've been in the Church of England schools in the Lichfield Diocese since I was 4 and ended up working for, so I've gone through all the schools and ended up a head teacher at one, which I'm exceptionally proud of. I've got a fabulous RWE lead. You'll find out more about that in a mo. We work with Lindsay, who you've just spoken to. She's our CDA, who is wonderful. We had our SIAMS inspection last year, just before the whole thing changed, and we're deemed a School of Excellence, so we're very proud of ourselves. That happened just before we then had our REQM assessment. So we'd been looking at this for quite some time. We're a very small school with very little money. I know that most schools are, but we are absolutely, we watch every single penny that we have. And I've had the pleasure of working with Mary many times. And she's saying, why aren't you going for the REQM? And I say, well, because I can't afford it. And I know that we're doing wonderful things, and I know that we could very easily pull an application together over time to prove that we're doing wonderful things, but I can't justify that spend. So we are very grateful for Mary suggesting that we request support from yourselves so that we could put this application together and have the assessment to rubber stamp what we're doing, and to, you know, we know what we're doing, what we think what we were doing, it was really good and of high quality, and that our children were thriving as a consequence. But actually it was really lovely to be able to go through that process. The process was a very long and exacting one, and we had to provide mountains and mountains of evidence to prove that that was the case. And at the end, when we had the professional discussion, there were lots of, are we this, are we that? And we were so borderline whether we were going to be silver or gold, but in the end, we were delighted to find out that we were a gold school. And that as a consequence, you know, they've said you need to go and talk to other people about what you're doing and spread the word a little bit, which is what they said in our SIAMS inspection as well. So we're very lucky. So over the last few years, I suppose, there's been lots of conversation in school about the delivery of our RE and why we're doing it, and then the fact that we wanted to, our vision is about the whole child and bringing them up in the way that we want them to continue, and so that we made some real conscious decisions to make the teaching of RE not just religious education but religious and world views education, and this was held in high esteem as well because of the work that we do. And our children were from between 3 and 9, and our children are really wonderful global citizens and they are ready to take on the world. So Jen is our RWE lead. She has been absolutely pivotal in our gold REQM, and it would not have happened without her. She has driven it and led it with such enthusiasm, but so knowing and understanding of what we should be doing and what we need to have, and the staff have been really receptive to that. And I'm really grateful for Jen for the work that she's done. So Jen, I thought just for a couple of moments was just going to tell you about the actual REQM and the assessment and the bits and pieces that went on.
Okay. So, as Sarah has introduced, it was a very thorough process, but a very reflective one, and one that was very powerful. And I think sometimes we get into the cycle of SIAMS and Ofsted, and it was really lovely to have a real deep look at our subject, and find that the things that we were doing were forward-thinking, they were bold, and they were courageous, and it took a lot of leaps of faith and courage to make big changes to our subject. And we were told that it was a wonderful golden thread throughout our school and that reflected the wonderful things that we do.
Thank you very much. Could I just underline this and say that what happened here was that Pattingham School asked if we would pay the fee for them to be examined for the RE quality mark. And Sacre said that it could find this money. Obviously, we can't do this for every school in the county, but we were very happy to do so, and even more happy with the result, and would congratulate you extremely warmly, because it's a very, very special thing to get the Gold Award. It's quite hard getting any award, but the Gold Award is really outstanding. We're very pleased, and you must be really thrilled.
We were delighted. I think, as Mary, I think she knew that we would do okay and suggested that we ought to do it. But I think it was about the fact that it was having that opportunity to have that conversation and that dialogue to say these are the things and this is, what we're doing and what we believe is the right thing for our children. And, I've said to many Ofsted inspectors that maths and English is very important, but actually, it's far more, and our church school ethos and our vision is about that foundation, and we absolutely passionately believe that, and the RWE element of that, encompasses it all as well, and we're very proud of it.
And again, could I underline that although you are a Church of England school, you are a controlled school,
yes.
And that you are following the agreed syllabus as prepared by this Sacre and
yes.
agreed by the County Council,
yes.
absolutely rigorously and diligently.
Yes.
How have you found our agreed syllabus?
Well, no, it's wonderful. So I actually trained in York as a teacher and worked very closely with the Yorkshire syllabus, so I've worked with many different syllabuses, and it's just wonderful to see forward thinking, and what we are really passionate about is our children being worldly and having that diet of diversity and difference, and really being that voice for the future, and being ready for the ever-changing world. And I think that is, rooted in the syllabus. you know, it's reflective of the area, it's reflective of our demographics, it's reflective of that future that we're heading towards. So thank you for the work you do.
Well, thank you. I didn't tell them I was going to ask that question. Would anybody else like to make any comments or
Thank you.
ask a question? Lauren.
Just to say massive congratulations. My school did this a few years back. We need to renew ours now, so that's another step for us to do. But I know how much work goes in. And even when you're already in a really strong position, as your school clearly was, to be awarded it, the journey you go on in preparing it is so helpful in making you think, well, why do we do that? Why does that work? What can we refine further? So even though this is sort of confirmation that you're doing as brilliantly as you thought you were, that process is still, I think, really beneficial. So now it's like, how can we share it? So obviously it's going to be in the report of this meeting, but the further and more broadly you can share it, I just think it's great because it improves the quality of what the school's delivering to go through that process of gaining the award. So well done.
It was a number of years ago that I actually visited St. Chad's. It was a long while ago. And it's when you go into a school and you can feel in the heart of the school the religious education and personal social health education is at the core of everything they do. That's when you know it's time for them to be shouting about it. But these days, unless you have these quality marks and kite marks, people don't quite believe you, do they? So when I met Sarah many years ago, I knew that the journey was starting, and it didn't happen overnight. It was a journey for all staff and children and governors. And as Lawrence said, they are to be applauded. And I have to admit that my school only achieved a silver mark. But it was 20 years ago, and we were the first school in the West Midlands ever to achieve it. And at that point, you had to go abroad as well. You had to go to Kenya in order to achieve the gold, because you had to prove that you were working in an additional school. But that was 20 years ago. So can I just say congratulations.
We will say we did that. Been there, done that. So we did the Kenya bit. Jen went over 2 or 3 times. And so,
6.
Yeah. 6 times?
6 times.
Oh, gosh. But yeah, but thank you, Mary.
Thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. May we give the school and those who have been... Sorry, thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Just to say thank you very much indeed to you for all the hard work that you've put into it and putting South Staffordshire on the map. Thank you very much indeed to you and your school. Thank you.
Chair, having been part of a 48 for a Catholic school and now a Church of England school, St Luke's, I know the work that goes into it. So to go gold on this, you can tell really once you walk through the front door of a school whether the 48 is worth it, because the friendliness, the openness, people getting on together is all part of a 48. It's not just about the religious side of it. It's the interaction between pupils, staff, governors, parents, everything. So it really is it's an honour for the county, not just for South Staffs as Kath's part of. It is for South Staff, for the whole county. So just my congratulations to everybody.
Well said. Thank you very much. Give them a round of applause.
Enjoy the freebies. You don't get very often.
You're welcome to stay or welcome to leave, as you wish. We're going to move on very quickly to the next item, item 6, which is over to Taryn, an information session from Flashley Primary School here in Stafford.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Taryn Sargent. I am here from Flashley Primary School. I am a HLTA there, so high-level teaching assistant, and also the religious education subject lead. I have only been in this role for just over 12 months. So I say 12 months, 1 full academic year. And during that time, obviously, we've seen a change in the syllabus, which I actually think has been a bit of a saving grace for myself. With the support of Mary and Sacre and Entrust, I've been able to almost lay a new foundation and build it up to where I think it needed to be for our own school. It seems in the past that, unfortunately, it has become it's become a subject that hasn't been at the forefront, has maybe been lost links throughout the curriculum. However, I have been able to come to this meeting with yourselves with planning up to my ears, and everybody now within Flashley Primary School can pick up this planning and know exactly what it is expected from them, what links that we are looking for in anything to do with our curriculum. We've made lots of links to the PSHE, to music, art, all of these different areas. And it's these links as well that have allowed us in September through our Ofsted inspection to go from a requires improvement school to a good school. And we have celebrated that. We have been able to put forward a lot of kind of ideas to our parents. We've got those home links as well. The one thing that we were lacking quite extensively was resources. Because as my colleagues have said, it's every school, it's not just one or two. We are very low on funding. We are pulling the purse strings, we are counting every single penny. And unfortunately, we don't have a budget for religious education at the moment. So it has been my responsibility, and I've enjoyed that responsibility of speaking to people such as yourselves who have been able to give us money to buy those resources, which will ultimately support the children. So you have my full appreciation. So thank you all for giving us that money. The resources that we've bought have covered not just one religion, but all. Lots of kind of work with culture and diversity. Our school has, in the past few years, gone up to a 34% EAL ratio, which means we have lots of children that have come from obviously different countries who have different cultures, different religions, and it's important to us that all of our children are exposed to the differences and those British values that we want to embed into kind of everything that we do. It's important for them to have those hands-on experiences. So the resources that we have bought have been put to a fantastic use. We've bought everything from books to soft play, to statues, to ornaments, and also through Mary, who I appreciate this lady so much. She has been able to kind of put things forward. We've got a workshop that will be taking place in February. She will, Hifsa, I've said that right, I'm so sorry. She will be coming into our school and working with our upper Key Stage 2 children and doing an introductory home life of a Muslim person, and we are so grateful that we've been able to have this for free, and we are working our very hardest. I am especially trying to ensure that now I've handed RE back, because last year it was just myself that was teaching RE. I've handed my planning over to the teachers of Flashley, and they have come back to me with really good feedback, saying, yes, absolutely, we know exactly what is expected. Any links that need to be on there are there, any resources, everything that we could possibly need is now there, and that's my appreciation to Sacre as well as yourselves, because your planning has been invaluable. I have it as my own everywhere. I carry my little pen drive around my neck at all times, so that any changes that need to take place, any adaptations, any changes for especially for our SEN children, because it's important that they have access to the full curriculum as well. But yeah, it's been invaluable, the support and the funding that we have had from yourselves. And I think is that okay? Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Taryn. We have an example here of someone who has gone into a school and has raised the profile of RE in that school in a way which has enhanced the whole school, and which has brought enormous benefit to the pupils and stimulus to the teachers, I think, and confidence to the teachers as well. So well done for all that, Taryn. Mary.
Taryn hasn't actually told the whole story in one sense, because Flashley has been a requires improvement school for many years under Ofsted's umbrella. And this year, yes, you got your good grading, but they actually had within the good grading 3 outstanding features. That was for behaviour of the pupils, the personal development of the pupils, which is all part and parcel of religious education, and also for the early years curriculum. And to go from an RI school 6 months ago to good and 3 outstanding is actually equally praiseworthy. So well done.
Thank you, I really appreciate that. I should probably just put on note that my boss will not be happy that I didn't say that. So yes, it was a lot of hard work, and I think that my boss, especially Jo Banks, she has, and especially with her links with Mary as well, we are very close-knit staffing, and as you've said, it's given everybody a little bit more of a boost, a bit more confidence. And we try to make it exciting, because I appreciate that sometimes some schools you might go in, you don't get that feel, as it was mentioned before. You walk through the door of a school and you get that feeling. We wanted that for Flashley. We wanted people to come in and to feel welcome and to feel included, wherever they are from, whatever their background. So yes, I appreciate you adding those notes on. Thank you.
Would you like to say a little bit about the diversity, the different communities that come to Flashley? Because this is perhaps a new perspective on Stafford.
Yeah, so we were predominantly a white British school. We are 1 form entry. We used to be 2 form entry, now 1 form entry. However, we have got quite substantially, our classes are getting much larger as we see people arriving, and as I said before, we are now at 34% with our EAL children, which does mean that we are looking at several different cultures, and the diversity is huge. And a lot of children will say, well, why do they look like that? Why do they talk that way? Why do they celebrate that and we don't? And it's really important to us that we are including every single child, and nobody feels left out, but it's also important to us that every child understands why the other children are potentially celebrating a holiday that we don't, or speaking a different way, or they don't really understand the ways of the kids. We have got many demographics throughout school. We used to be predominantly, as I say, white British, Christian, but it was important to us to work with the different demographics, which is why we now, obviously, we have our culture learning, we have different aspects of non-religious parts. I myself, and I don't mind this going on record at all, I myself do not have a religion. I do not, I don't have bias towards any, which I think has actually put me in a very unique position where I can be, I can broaden the horizons. I am learning with the children. I am enjoying learning, and I like to look at everything. However, it's important for us to ensure that the key demographics are still catered to. I don't know if I answered your question, I'm so sorry.
Question, make a comment. Again, Councillor.
I find it difficult that you can be a religious education teacher in a school if you don't have any religious views. I just find it difficult to accept, I'm sorry.
Can I come in on this, because I feel super strongly about it? The way I think of RE and the way that I think we should think of it, people feel free to correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, is we're teaching an academic subject through academic means. And if, as part of that academic study, pupils gain something personally, just as I might do from the academic study of music or art, that's great. But if I'm presenting information to my children as part of a social sciences or academic study, my own particular perspective on that doesn't really matter. If I'm doing religious instruction, that's different. But if I'm teaching children about religion and encouraging them to learn from it, I think my perspective is irrelevant in some senses.
My views haven't changed, I'm sorry. I know the views some people around the table are the same views I've just given. Academic, say for year 11, and you're perhaps doing it for a GCSE or something, but when you're talking about 5-year-olds, I really believe you've got to live it a bit more And I think in one way, it's perhaps what's wrong with the Church of England, that certain people in the Church of England don't put their own views across as religious people. And that's perhaps why religious education isn't as strong in some schools. The schools I teach in, you have to be a qualified teacher first to teach a subject. Once again, the lady isn't a qualified teacher and she's teaching a subject which is a very important subject. It's mandatory according to, in the Catholic Church, and I know it is from here when we give the syllabus. So I just think there's things going wrong or going awry. It's a personal view, but I think that's what we're here for, to give our views to the committee.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be controversial here. I don't think it matters at all if you're religious or not. I think you can approach the subject with objectivity. I'm a forensic child and adolescent psychologist. I have to diagnose conditions of the mind. It doesn't mean to say I have them myself personally, but it doesn't stop me from actually educating people on the subject. So I think in defence of that remark, Paul, I think you're to be applauded that you're actually fresh-minded and absolutely devoted to delivering this. And I don't think the fact that you're not religiously inclined has got a scrap of difference to make to your syllabus as long as you're delivering it. So well done.
Can I just say, Flashley isn't a Church of England first school, which means it has slightly different rules and regulations, I suppose, policies and procedures. HLTAs are valued members of teams. They are qualified to a very high level, and they are more than capable of delivering any lessons. They are given that responsibility, and it wouldn't be taken lightly. If a head teacher is given an HLTA a responsibility, they know that they'd be able to carry that out. In first schools, we cannot all be specialist teachers in every single area, and all of us that train to teach in primary education have to be able to teach everything. Some of us may have gone different routes through our studies and have a little bit more understanding, a little bit more knowledge about certain subjects, but that would be saying that somebody that doesn't necessarily have a faith or religion that isn't able to teach RE would mean that somebody without a maths degree can't teach maths, and that's not the case. And I think, you know, well done. And as a head teacher of a small school, every member of the team are absolutely equal. And if there is a person that is willing and able to go and stand in front of a class and deliver whatever subject, then they will and they should. And I think it, to be commended.
Can I add a comment to that and respond to the councillor? As somebody who has studied and is expert in psychological matters, you would, I hope, respect what we have been trying to do in the RE syllabus here, which is to explore the difficulty that human beings have in living with diversity. It's one of the biggest challenges there is to have a sense of who you are, and also to accept alongside you people who are different and who have as much right to their difference as you have to your own identity. And this is a huge challenge, and I don't say that we've found the solution, but our RE syllabus does try to assist pupils in negotiating that challenge.
Explore, engage, reflect. That's what you've put together in your document here, and that's exactly what it is. It's about understanding, deepening that understanding, finding out more, thinking about it. It doesn't matter who's delivering it at all.
And can I just reiterate that I know at Flashley the religious education is well taught, that the HLTA, and I know you are on a professional journey as well, aren't you? Yeah, and with the fact that they've very recently had Ofsted who rubber stamped, if you like, that the curriculum was of a very high standard, including religious education, I think we can all be confident that what is happening at both schools here is of high quality. And can we say thank you for referencing our SACRA's agreed syllabus, and that it's helped you on that journey. And just for you to know, meetings like this type of meeting is normal. We discuss, we debate. It's please don't think because you're sitting there, suddenly things have changed. This is what we do. So could you imagine to actually develop this agreed syllabus? It has taken rigour and robustness. So perhaps that makes you really realise that...
Could we thank Taryn particularly? Ladies, you can stay if you wish, you can depart if you wish.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
But thank you. Mary's going to escort the ladies out just for a moment. We can take a small breather, but just to comment on the agenda, Mary has exceeded herself this time in producing an agenda pack with 113 pages, I think it is, almost as much as the County Council achieves sometimes. But some of it is documentation. I don't expect everybody to have read every word, but they are there for people to take note of and to be aware of. But we'll perhaps tread as lightly as we can in going through those documents. Item 7 is an update on membership. I think, are you going to say something about this, Simon?
This is Mary.
Oh, it's Mary. We do have a number of vacancies, and we do hope to fill these. We are hopeful that there will be somebody coming from the Muslim community, somebody who is already well known, who will be possibly taking up Mohammed's place on the Sacre. But we have to go through due process for this, and it would be improper for me to mention any names, I think. But we do look forward to that development if it materialises. I think the Church of England committee is fairly full, and I think the councillors, Committee D is fairly full. I don't know so much about the teacher associations. I think there are 1 or 2 vacancies there.
No, Teaching Association is also full. Unfortunately, we've just had a few apologies for today's meeting, obviously ill health.
So it's Committee A, which is Other Denominations and Faiths, which is the most short, one that falls short most in terms of representation. And we have a number of members on that committee representing different faith communities who hardly ever appear at the moment, and other places which are vacant. And I think this is an area that we need to try and focus on, but it's not all that easy to do so, because it needs a certain amount of motivation and for them to feel that they're able to contribute if they do come, rather than just sit in a meeting and fill a seat. One of the things we do try to do in this Sacre is to enable people to participate, and hopefully people do feel that they can participate freely. And I also try to build in something interactive at each meeting, so that you actually talk to each other as well as to the chair.
Yes, we have that.
Okay, I'm filling in, Mary. I'm
so sorry. Yes, we have an interactive session.
No, we're on to the update on membership. Okay. And I'm just saying that we're going through the committees. It's Committee A, which has got a number of vacancies and a number of people who don't attend very often. So we need to look at that. Do we need to say anything more?
Just to let you know that I did undertake an exercise over the summer to do just that, to try and get new representatives on the committees. And as you said, it has been a struggle. We have had some feedback, which I wanted to discuss with you, but it is post-meeting as opposed to something that will be discussed at the moment. But a few of the organisations have contacted to say they would like to put somebody on the committee, but they just don't have anybody who is available to come onto the committee. So we know there is interest there. It's not simply a case of not being able to find some. I think the other reason that this item was put on the agenda was just looking at the information that Mary shared as the result of the Bowen versus Kent Council with regards to the humanist position on their in Group A of their SACRE.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've mentioned this many times before in other meetings that we are actually ahead of the curve on that particular situation. We do have and have had a humanist representative for some time. Unfortunately, he hasn't attended for a few meetings, but there is a post, there is a place there, so we are able to have somebody on Committee A from the humanists.
Yeah, thank you very much, Simon. Just to draw your attention to the legal advice that's been given, that's recorded in item 7, the papers for agenda item 7. As Simon says, we've had a humanist place on this SACRE for some years now, and this was something that the County Council were willing to consider when this was put to them, and we were able to argue that this was a good and proper development at that time. But this has been now reinforced by this legal decision. So, and of course it would apply to other organised and recognised groups if they emerge as well. So that's item 7, disclosure of interests. So do we need to do that as well?
I'm not sure what that item was related to.
It's a statutory item, isn't it, that anybody has an interest in anything in this meeting today, that they actually disclose it at the beginning of the meeting.
The interest here has to be, to use the term, a pecuniary interest, something that you might benefit financially from by decisions or actions that we take. But I think it's almost impossible to conceive of a situation in which you might. But I think, unless somebody's got a private business producing RE resources.
Good try.
Okay, so we move on to item 8. I've just said, Mary, that we've got lots of documents here, but we'll go through these fairly lightly, perhaps, when we get to them. So Mary's going to lead us through update on key issues, item 8.
A lot of this is actually carrying on from the previous meeting that we had. If you remember last meeting, we talked about RE hubs. Do you remember where we were having regional meetings to discuss aspects to do with religious education and SACREs? And they were very new in the last meeting that we had, but these RE hubs, as can be seen on page 14, are quite, well, they're becoming quite established. And tomorrow I have a meeting of the regional RE hub where I will be discussing certain aspects to do with SACRE. And these are outlined on page 15 at the top. And this is the interactive session that Michael mentioned that we might be getting involved in. And these are the questions that I have to answer tomorrow night in a webinar. And the questions that have been asked are outlined there, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I wondered if just in groups of 2, you would like to consider those 4 questions for a few minutes and report back. I know there's a lot of information I know in the rest of the meeting, but much of it is to do with the fact, that we are a good SACRE and we're trying our best to do our very best for the county, and it's just an indicator, all the other papers are indicators of what we are currently working on. So how do you feel about that, Michael? Do you think it would be a good idea for everybody to have a think?
Yes.
And to answer those few questions?
What Mary is saying is that there's the first meeting of the West Midlands Regional RE Hub tomorrow online, and Mary is going to be there representing us, and she's going to be asked to give responses to those questions and would like you to answer them for her. No, that's what the task is. In relation to our own Staffordshire SACRE here, what is our contribution to RE and worldviews? I think it should be religious education and worldviews, really. What are our key challenges? How can SACRE be more effective? And how do we see ourselves as a SACRE within the broader educational landscape that's emerging? Can I suggest that Julie and the councillor with Jackie form one group of conversation?
Gabby and
Lauren, perhaps, and the 3 councillors together? Sam, do you want to come and join us? Yes.
Yes. And we won't take too long.
Could you give yourselves 5 minutes to just have a quick look at these? All right, everyone. This is just a quick roundup. We'll take each question in turn. The first question is, yes, I'm sorry, my computer's, here we are. Oh, not to worry. What's the our Sacre's contribution to religious education and worldviews? Very quickly, Julie.
We are very much part of worldviews. And all our civilisations, actually, if you look at the rules and regulations, in our civilisations across the world, are all fundamentally spiritual views. And spiritual views and we would know that we all have as a human being, we all have a choice between what we do. We choose which way to go, to choose to be kind, we choose to be, rather than choose to be maybe aggressive and things like that. So we all have a choice, and without knowledge and without information, we can't do that. So we have to have a spiritual essence in the worldviews, and Sacre is part of that.
Thank you very much. Gabby, Lauren?
Absolutely not more qualified, no. We had a really good discussion about this and basically came to the conclusion that we make a really positive contribution to RE and worldviews because we've seen tangible examples of that today, haven't we, of children's lives being enriched and of their study being enriched by the syllabus that you've put together. So I think we make a significant contribution and it's having real world impact, and we know that now quite objectively. Thank you.
To do more. Leave it at that, I think. What are the key challenges as a Sacre? Oh, just question one. Yeah. Oh, okay. We should do more.
Okay, thank you. Revised our agreed syllabus, very much in line with current thinking. So that will support the work of RE in schools in the county and all other schools that wish to draw on that. So that will be very helpful. We've got enough for Mary to give a good account of us there, I think. What are our key challenges? Should we go in an opposite direction? Should we do councillors first?
The biggest thing is woke society. And if I look at Catholic, bring the Christian to main church in really, Catholic Church of England, we've got our own schisms really in the two churches. If we look at, say, Europe for both churches really, in favour of gay marriage and all things that go with it. If you go to the African side of it, then they don't agree with that. So we're trying to sell us a worldview. We as churches are split. The same with America, really, where North America and South America is totally different, where the churches are going and the religious views there. And of course, if people don't agree with you, this cancel culture now can go against you. So a teacher can say one thing, parents another thing. I mean, I wrote the policy on home education. And if we look at the travelling community, they take their children out of school at 9 for girls, 10 for boys, because they don't do sexual education now. And sexual education is not just sexual education, it's about interaction between peoples, etc. So they're not getting that. So really, and we can't force it on them. They've got the right to home educate, but then they're missing other things through the Sacre policy throughout the rest of the school career, because they don't agree with one part of it, which is the teaching of interaction between people as part of the education policy, the original education policy.
You've opened up a rather big canvas there, I think.
Well, I think, Chairman, it's topical, you know, and you can't hide from Gaza and Israel. How would you feel if you were a Jew in London with demonstrations going on and the sorts of things that have been performed over the last 2 weeks? That is a challenge to Sacre, whether you like it or not, because the religious education, we try and calm things down, but obviously with that going on in the outside world, whatever you do in a classroom will be affected by lunchtime, early evening or late at night television news. You can't get away from it.
And our hope is that religious education will somehow enable people to find the way in which to negotiate that kind of division, conflict, enormous suffering, and to try to look ahead to something that will enable all the people involved to live together in the future. However impossible or unlikely that seems, I think you have to try to work. And I suppose the essential part of that is that people should come to understand where the different groups, sections are coming from who are creating that conflict. I've got no answer myself here except to say that religious education hopefully will enable pupils to engage in a constructive and inclusive way, whichever group or non-group they might identify with. But it's
Chairman, can I just add? I hear what you say, but I think there are some religions that are far stronger than others out there in this wide world today. Even in this country now, we've got stronger religions than we used to have. And it's very difficult. And what do they always say? Listen to the loudest voice, is what I'm saying. It's going to be very difficult to actually bring this down to a level that we can appreciate and teach our children. That's just a view I have. Sorry. Thank you.
I appreciate that. So moving on to Gabby, this is...
On the faith groups, because who is here today? And this is obviously something important that we are discussing, and yet they're not represented. And even if they were here and they were just sitting here, we need to get their views and we need to get their attitude, especially in view of what you were saying. And I think that's important. But
could I just comment on that we used to have somebody on this Sacre who represented the Jewish community, and we have tried to find another person, or more than one person if possible, who could continue to represent that community, but that has proved impossible, partly because the number of practicing Jewish people within range of Stafford or Staffordshire itself is really quite small. I can say, however, that I do know one person who lives in Staffordshire with whom I've had contact, a lady of professional background who is practicing Jew, who said some years ago that she did not feel safe in this country. And it got worse. It has unfortunately got worse.
Many of them are planning to leave the country.
Sorry?
I can't switch my microphone.
Sorry, we've overloaded the system.
Yeah, many of them are planning to leave the country.
That is sad. Julie.
So we live in a world which is ever-changing. We live in a world where media and information is given to us, but we don't necessarily have the skills to work out what is good and what is true. That's one of the challenges. And that only comes through consultation and talking about the problems. And consultation at families, at homes. If you never talk about the problems, the children might be seeing it, they might be hearing things in the playground, and they may not come home and talk to people. So it's about this idea that consultation is the key, and looking for what is good for everybody. This idea that all human beings are welcome, all human beings belong to one family. We only have one planet. we all totally dependent on our planet as well. So we're going to have to find ways to get people to come together and talk about the issues and come up with sensible ideas, okay, about how to solve the problems. And this comes back to education right at home and to getting your children to be thinking about things, even if they are 10 or 11, to be talking to them about the problems of the world, and because it's something they're going to inherit. And also trying to get a sort of grasp of the truth. And history is incredibly important because many of the things that are happening today, sadly, are linked back to what happened at the end of the First World War or the end of the Second World War. And also then you have to bring in the principle, you can't live in the past, you have to live today. So you have to move forward. If we want our civilization to move forward and if we want to improve the world for everybody, we have to move in that direction of consultation and diversity and respect for people's views, but also to sit down and make plans together to make our communities, even our village communities, better for everybody. But if you don't talk to people and you don't get the information out there and you don't have the discussions about what truth is and how do we decide what truth is, so your children can't decide what truth is, they only hear the loudest voice, as the lady said, they only hear what's on the television or they only hear what's on, put in front of a newspaper. But these are spiritual things. All the problems of the world have a spiritual component that is missing that we need to make people think about putting it back in. And key is love. If you haven't got the capacity to look at another human being and see somebody that you want to love, then you have a problem, because if you're putting a barrier up instantly. So.
As has happened already this afternoon, we're asked a practical question about the functioning of our sacre, and we're drawn into bigger issues which we're, in a sense, overwhelmed by, aren't we?
Thank you, Chair. I think the lady to the left of me alluded to it, and I think one of the challenges, we've got to make sure that the representation is here at the table. We have it down on paper, but having attended this group quite regularly for the last 2 years, you get to see the same old faces. You don't see the people that are coming. We've got to get people more interesting so that all faiths are represented and have a chance to make their views heard in a safe environment, you know. And I think one of the key challenges is to counteract social media as well. I think that's had a powerful thing, and to hear that somebody's thinking of leaving the UK because they don't feel safe here, when we were considered probably one of the most tolerant societies, is a sad indictment. And I think we need to challenge ourselves on how we're going to try to reverse that. And I think one of the key challenges is to make sure everybody's there around that table to talk openly, to talk about things that are not necessarily going wrong, but how we can work together and accept each other's views.
Questions 1 and 2, and I think Mary's already got enough material for that. And we've also touched on item 3, really. Can I suggest that we've given this enough airing, and that if you have comments on questions 3 and 4 that you might like to share with Mary over the next 24 hours before she goes to the hub, please feel free to do so. But thank you for your contributions on that. We move on to further updates on key issues.
So the next update on page 15 is to do with the GCSE and A-level update on results from 2022. Now, I know it's 2023 and we've had another set of results since then, but they've not come through in an official capacity. They're all still being crunched. So we're only still now receiving the full picture about last year's GCSE and A-level results. So this is for religious education, but in high schools mostly known as religious studies, philosophy or ethics. They just call it different labels, but that's what they mean. And you can see here, I've given you a bit of an update on the religious studies, the GCSE, and I think the main thing to note is that when we compare our schools to the national schools, that we are, with regard to GCSEs, we are about 3 to 4% lower than the national averages. But I think that's just been the way it's been over the past few years. We've not got worse, we've not got better. Sometimes we go up, sometimes we go down, but generally we're 3 to 4% lower, which is commendable, I think, for many of our schools. You can see in Staffordshire the schools on page 15, where I've highlighted some of the schools that have got really good gradings, or have, and this time last year when we were looking at these, you asked me to also look at the amount of entries that went into a school for GCSE, because if they only put one person in, then of course they're going to get 100% at a reasonable level possibly. So I have put in as well this time the schools that have entered the most students, and then their gradings as well, so that you can get a flavour. I have the results for the majority of schools within Staffordshire. And then over the page, I've tried to just analyse them a little bit more for you. Some people like things in tables, some people like it as a narrative, some people like it in a linear fashion, so I've tried to give you all sorts. And then on page 17, I've done the same for the A-level results. When we looked at this last time, Staffordshire gave me a report that said the number of entries for A-levels, we'd only had 58 entries, which was incorrect. So now we have 164 entries for the A-level, and you can see the gradings from A stars, A to C, and so on. And you can see there that Staffordshire, with regard to A star to A, that we are pretty much once again within that 4%, but within the A stars to C, Staffordshire is actually a little bit ahead of the game of the national. And that just gives you a bit of a flavour of the schools that are entering students for A-levels. And I've given you once again the names of the schools where they are actually putting in quite a few entries. Yes, Paul?
Have Paisley and my old school Cardinal Griffin given you their results? Because both schools, I know at GCSE, every pupil has to be entered. It's part of being a Catholic syllabus. They have to be entered for it.
What I've done is just taken the schools that have put the most entries in, and if they didn't put in the most entries, then I didn't actually...
Both should be putting 150 plus in to know their tab. Well, the Griffin's 150 and Paisley's perhaps slightly higher.
Right, Cardinal Griffin, Catholic College, number of entries for A-level was 5.
What was it
for GCSE? For GCSE, I'm just having a look. They're not on my list at the moment. Cardinal Griffin, they put in, let's have a look, 140 entries.
Yes,
Is that for GCSE? Is that okay?
Yeah, no, just as long as they're giving you their results, that's what matters.
Really. Yeah, yes. So yes, I have their results.
Thank you.
Yes.
So really what we should say here is that this is just a report of those schools that put in the most entries
yes.
In O-level, GCSE, just GCSE level.
And A-level.
And A-level.
Because last time that's what you asked me to concentrate on, because it's a vast database. Yeah. So we concentrate on different aspects.
But it's quite clear that in a fair number of our secondary schools, almost the whole intake is being entered for a GCSE exam in religious studies or religious education. Yeah. So that is an indication that they're taking that subject quite seriously in that school.
And this is to be read in conjunction with page 17, the workforce data. And the workforce data is a database telling us in SACRE how many hours a school actually teaches religious education or religious studies from the middle schools up to the high school over the year. And when we looked at it last year, there were 4 schools that were not actually, I think, doing any religious education or religious studies. This year it's only 1. So I am exploring that school, and I've been looking on their website, and I can't see anything yet, but I will be, as I say, exploring further, because in previous years where schools have not been indicating they've been teaching religious studies or religious education, then I have been instrumental in being on the head teacher performance management panel to make sure that in future that school does carry out its statutory duties. Or in a case of another school, I was asked to do an external review of the school, and the education, religious education, religious studies came up as a point for development. So that's the way that, you know, I look at that data and try my best to address the aspects that come out of it. With regard to page 18, the West Hill Legacy Project on Explore, Engage and Reflect, that's where we go into schools and run workshops. Now, I met with the person who's been leading the workshop from the Minority Ethnic Achievement Service team, Wahida Qureshi. I met with her throughout the year. I've been with her on her workshops. I've visited. And then, unfortunately, last Saturday, she passed away. So all of the plan that we had in place and Trust cannot now deliver. So I have met with another trainer. I know this sounds like, oh, okay, that one can't do it, so we've got to do something else because we've got money invested in this. And I've met, and you met that person last time, Hifsa. Do you remember Hifsa sat here and gave a very good account of what she does? And then coincidentally, Wahida passed away. I contacted Hifsa to ask her, could she put together some workshops for us? And she is doing that. And actually, Paul, the first workshop is at your school, St. Luke's in Cannock, on the 28th of November. So Hifsa will be carrying that out. And she has promised to carry out the workshops in certain schools for us. So we are filling the gap there. But it's the MIAS team are in shock over the death of Wahida, and it's left a massive gap because she was working with the Ukrainian children, she was assessing them and developing their education. So it's tragic. It's been absolutely tragic. The next thing, support for schools. I'm saying it would be good practice now to provide a dedicated website for all of the information that I've been working on for schools to just access instead of just emailing me and I'm having to reply to every individual school. I know where the agreed syllabus is currently held for Staffordshire. I don't know if we can upload or have a section of that for resources?
The honest answer to that is no, because where it's currently uploaded is our committee management system. But that doesn't mean that there couldn't be a web page dedicated to SACRE, which is a different part of the organisation. So I can start a conversation, including you, Mary, and we'll ask about having a page. If you can let us know what it is, what resources you want to have on there, so people can access that information.
Now, I preempted that a little bit, and I also wrote to Entrust to ask could they provide a website, and they said that they have an English website and nothing else, but they're quite willing to put our religious education aspects on there as well. So it might be that it's a two-pronged attack, if you like.
We could do both.
We could do both, yes. Okay. And because with the Entrust, it might be just schools who have signed up to service level agreements and that type of thing where we know nobody has to pay for access to our agreed syllabus. So we're working on that. And then on page 19, I got some great news.
Could we just pause a moment
Of
there?
course.
I think a number of other SACREs do have dedicated websites, and I think this would be a very good development for us. We could put all sorts of things on that site. We could put the agreed syllabus, we could put guidance, we could put membership of SACRE and things like that. So a resource for advice that have been issued to schools and so forth. Yeah.
And with regard to succession planning as well, I'm not always going to be sitting here, and possibly Michael's not always going to be sitting here. So we need to have that information available to new people coming on board, because when I took over in this role, there was very little information passed on to me in that respect. So we've had to almost start afresh. So I think that's going to be a great development for us all. So it'll be good. Thank you, Simon.
Yeah, lovely.
Then on page 19, application for Culham St Gabriel charity grants. Now, we hear so much about these charity grants that are available, but you know, I've never heard of anybody gain a charity grant. So we did receive one many years ago called the West Hill Charity Grant, which is why we continue with that work. And so I applied for one to Culham St Gabriel. Well, that was interesting because that opened up about 20 hours of work, 3 interviews, 5 policy documents, and so on. And there is a special part of this agenda that goes through it. But in a nutshell, I want to tell you that we were actually successful in gaining £6,500 from the Culham St Gabriel charity. And it's to do with working with, in a strategic way, with leaders of schools, as in governors and trustees, because we do a lot of work with teachers. But in actual fact, unless the strategic top level understand their obligations towards difference, diversity, the agreed syllabus, if it is what they're following, or unagreed syllabus, inclusion, then it sometimes is dead in the water. So you talked a little bit there about discussion, didn't we? Discussion with other people about these aspects. So I have now £6,500 to open up those discussions, provided they accept the County Council accounts. So I had to send those off yesterday, so we'll see how that goes. And I, once again, HIFSA is ready and available to support with this, because the white British woman's viewpoint on difference and diversity is going to be very different from the Muslim woman's version on difference and diversity. So we're going to build together webinars, and we're going to deliver these to our governors and our trustees, and they will be given some information through something called the Governor Information Pack that I write anyway for the county, and in there is always a section on religious education, religious studies, so in there I'll be putting a link out for them to say how they can access these webinars. So we have the vehicle already. So development plan, I have not written a new one because I wanted to see today where we were going with everything, but it will be ready for February, and it will include all of those things that we've started to talk about today. I can assure you of that. The religious education quality mark, we've had that information.
St Luke's is on there. We discussed it last week at the governors meeting.
Yeah. So Sean couldn't come today, you see, so he would also have been given the opportunity to talk about the Gold Award, because he received that as well in the past academic year. So well done to St Luke's for the Gold Award.
Yes, I think we need to pass our congratulations,
Absolutely.
very warm congratulations, on to St Luke's.
Yes.
Well, I'll gladly pass them to the governors. I'm at school on Friday, so I'll gladly pass them. So thank you very much.
Well done, well done.
And then I've been working with your head teacher, and we've been to another school in the Staffordshire Moorlands, and we've been looking at their curriculum, including we looked at RE lessons, and we've given them hints and tips for development. So what happens is, because of the quality mark, one of the aspects is that you have to share and care for others, and you have to do that in such a way that people benefit. So we've already started that journey with your school.
I mean, the way we bring a lot of pupils together is through music. As you know, we're a very musical school. Concerts, same as when the Griffin had the 3 bands. You can bring children of all denominations, faiths, whatever, through singing, dancing, whatever it is. And that's the way we often interact, get parents involved, because they come and see their children if they're in productions, whatever it is. So you get them into school a lot easier. So it's just another outlet where you can take pressure off everybody by just getting things that people enjoy, is a better way to put it.
And I know your school does it very well because your school was chosen to sing at the launch of the agreed syllabus.
That's right.
So we do, and I've been working with your head teacher for about 8 years now to help. I know, yes. We've been working together to sort of get that really top dollar, as we call it. So we're looking forward to your Ofsted.
They also sang on Sunday at the Cenotaph in Cannock.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. Well done.
Okay. So that's it.
So that's item 8, update on key issues. I think we're going to have to move along fairly swiftly.
It'll be fine.
Now.
It'll be fine.
Yeah. Item 9, NASICA update. I'm not as fully integrated with NASICA exec as I used to be, but I can say that they're working very, very closely with the RE Regional Hub Network, and two of the people who are presenting the West Midlands item tomorrow as the sort of newborn West Midlands RE Hub. 2 of those members are actually on the NASICA exec. So this is a partnership between NASICA and the Regional Hub organisation. And in fact, Claire Clinton, who is the person who is overseeing the whole network, is also on the exec, as NASICA exec. I just want to share with you that the leadership of NASICA at the national level is going through a little bit of a wobble at the moment, because the person who was chairing it has had to resign, or has given notice of resigning, and the person who was expected to follow on as the next chair has said they're not willing to do that. So there is an issue here about the leadership of NASICA. And I'm keeping an eye on this to see how things develop. Other than that, NASICA continues to serve the SACRAs across the country and to be our representative at government level. And it's taken more notice of at government level than it used to be. Perhaps that's also a sign that RE is being taken a bit more seriously. But NASICA is present there as well. So that's enough from me on NASICA, unless anybody would like to ask a question. Okay, moving on. Mary's said something about the charity grant, including a safeguarding policy, but we've got an extensive document here about this.
This extensive document is our safeguarding policy, which apparently we have to have as SACRA. And in order to comply with the grant regulations, I have to send them our SACRA safeguarding policy. So all I have done is I've taken the county council safeguarding policy and I have modified it to meet our SACRA needs. I haven't put anything in that is illegal or controversial. I've just taken out aspects that didn't apply to us because we don't have children in this room. But we are still wary that if we did go in and visit schools, that we have to comply with the safeguarding policies within their schools. And this is basically what the document says. But we have to have a minute to say that the SACRA accept the updated safeguarding policy. Are we all right with that?
Well, I think we should have an opportunity for people to ask questions or raise objections if they wish to. It occurs to me, of course, that when we had our agreed syllabus launch, we did have face-to-face contact with children. But that was covered to some extent by the fact that there were teachers there who were fully guarded and in a full guardianship situation. But it is an issue that has to be really kept fairly sort of rigorous and robust. St Mary has said, and we take her word for it, that she has taken this document word for word from the local authority's own, the county's own safeguarding policy. And therefore it is...
That's my portfolio.
Right.
You recognise it.
Well, no, well, thank you for that thoroughness and for having that document available. Maybe we then just have I think we probably ought to take a formal vote on this, since this is a thing. Can we do it by committee, please, just so that Joe can get an answer? So that, first of all, we'll do it in reverse order. Those from Committee D, who are the councillors present, are you happy for this to be adopted as the SACRE safeguarding policy? Yes, by all means, do.
Well,
I think Kath would like to speak.
Well, just to say, do we have to declare an interest? Because we've already adopted it.
Only for money.
Okay, you agree? Okay, thank you. Sam, I think you're the only teacher group representative. Are you happy for it to be adopted? Lauren and myself, are we happy for the Church of England group to? Okay, we are. And finally, Gavi and Julie. Okay, so we have taken a unanimous vote, 4-0, to accept this as our safeguarding policy.
Question? Just a very quick question. Sadly, I haven't read the document. Sorry, Mary. When we're taken on as SACRE members, is our status checked anywhere or anything?
No.
So in that case, you're being put forward by the group you represent. So
well, I have
obviously
okay.
it's not just direct to us. Can I join? And we say, oh, that's fine. You are representing a group who have nominated you essentially. So there is an expectation that.
Yeah, that's fine because I have all my clearance through my group.
Okay, thank you. Right. That's item 10, I think. We've done all we need to do on that one. And we thank Mary for the work that she's put in to ensure that we have this extra £6,500, which has to be focused in particular ways, but which will enhance the profile of SACRE within the county and which will have benefit to the schools. So that's good. Now we come on to the next development that is really quite a substantial one, the Religious Education Council publication, item 11. This is something that we know has been in the wings, so to speak, and it's now been issued and it's been adopted by the Religious Education Council. And I think it's not statutory, but it is being commended to SACREs and to schools for their consideration. I don't know whether you'd like to say a word or two about it, Mary.
Much of what is written in the National Content Standard for Religious Education, some of it, not all of it, some of it echoes our agreed syllabus, but there is a massive emphasis on it with regard to worldviews, which I'm sure we all applaud. But it does talk about the worldviews of a child, which is good, but some children may have a worldview that is not correct. So at the moment we've got in schools children identifying as cats, and their worldview is that all and everybody should be a cat. And schools are having to write to parents to say things like, we are unable to provide litter trays for your child who is identifying as a cat.
And universities have to do that as well.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is,
you're not going to get the perfect response.
so within this National Content Standard for Religious Education, there are some good factors that all schools can look at. There's some good practice being outlined. There's the subject content is interesting, and it does, as I said, mirror some of the aspects we have. They look at standards for the early years, standards for Key Stage 1, standards for Key Stage 2, which is good. And we look at that as well within our agreed syllabus. So there are some aspects of it which, I would commend to you. But also on the front page, on page 51, I've given you the debate, because we know SACRES is all about debate, isn't it? I'm giving you the debate about the other view as well with regard to it. I don't know if Michael wants to say something about that.
Yeah, if I may, I've shared with Mary this other material here, which is part of her introduction to this item, which comes from an organisation called the Religious Education Network. Now, it doesn't say in the title what's in the can, so to speak, but the can is this, that it is an evangelical Christian organisation which takes a particular view of what religious education should be about. It takes, if you like, a more traditional view. And it does raise the point, and that's been highlighted in yellow on the next page, the emphasis on encouraging children to develop their own personal worldview is contrary to freedom of religion and belief. In other words, if a child comes from a faith community, they will come with an emergent worldview which derives from that faith community and which is part of their emerging personality and identity. And if they are being encouraged to develop their own worldview in isolation from that or in separation from that, that actually is impinging on their freedom of religion and belief. And we have to acknowledge that the tendency within RE is to develop, if you like, an impartial and inherently non-religious approach to questions of what is meaning, what is the world, who am I, and what are my values. And this world view approach and pupil-centred approach does seem to work against people building up identity and values within an existing faith community. I think that's what's behind that comment there. So there is a tension here, but the drift at the moment away from schools which are able, through their faith foundations, to offer a school a holistic education which has got a faith foundation in it, the tendency is for schools to become more and more agents of secularization, agents, if you like, of non-religion, encouraging worldviews which are generated from within a person's non-religious experience and context. So this is the kind of issue that I think that's being highlighted there. And I think we just have to see how things develop. My own suspicion is that we may be getting the beginnings of a divide between schools with a faith foundation which are able to offer a holistic context in which a child can develop an identity derived from that faith community, with schools which offer no support at all for developing an identity within a faith community.
The only way we can challenge that is by confrontation, and that's the last thing we want as religious, sacred, whatever it's going to be. We want, as you said, discussion and try and have people with the same views. Okay, we can't agree on everything, but wherever possible, on the majority things, the morality, the diversity, the acceptance of other people, that's what we've got to have. And as we know, certain people can't live with other people. And if that's what they get at home, they come to school, it's going to be very, very difficult for the education community to try and change them in any other way without confrontation. And so, but that's the last thing we ever want. It's almost impossible in certain circumstances.
I seem to remember a couple of meetings ago, there was a school that had raised the question of whether they had to teach religious education, and that we had to tell them they did. Yeah. It was an academy from memory. So there's a point here. You mentioned schools that have got a faith foundation, and I was a foundation governor of a middle school, and I had to remind them that in the title of the school it had got open bracket C of E, close bracket, and that was my role as a foundation governor. So you can put the faith-based schools to one side because there will be somebody there that can remind them. The problem is the non-faith-based schools could take it upon themselves and say, this is nothing to do with us, or just pay tokenism at an assembly that they hold once a week, and we'll just think about those that gave their lives in the First and Second World War, and call that religious education. So the question is, how do we ensure that they're doing what they should be doing if they're a non-faith-based school? I'm sure Mary will tell me that we've got tools in the kit that can do it, either Ofsted or something else. But do we ever look at that and check on an audit?
Well, all I can say, Philip, is that schools that are part of the local authorities family of schools are required to teach to the agreed syllabus, which we have established and which still operates under the rubric that the content should be governed by the fact that the major tradition, religious tradition in this country is Christian, and should take account of other faith traditions and now non-faith traditions which are present. And they should be teaching to that. And we can explore compliance if necessary, but that is still the case. I think there is a tension between what the law says and where some people would like to take the law. But at the moment, the guidance is what the law says and what this SACRE has offered as its agreed syllabus to schools in this county.
Chairman, I see that. So I don't think there's a problem with the local authority schools either. So the emphasis of of the flip side of SACRE, helpful and advise, lead, nurture, persuade, all the other words, to, that's the carrot, to the stick of why aren't you doing something, might be focused best on the academy trusts that haven't got a faith base. I don't know. What tools have we got? Because there is a law that somewhere that says they should follow. So, you know, I've got a red tractor inspection
two
tomorrow,
things.
and I know what I've got to do. You know, so if I haven't done this, I fail, and I can't sell my assured products.
Well, two things, if I may. The first is, as a SACRE, we have no power or right or responsibility, really, in relation to what happens in an academy within this county. That's the situation. We can offer help and advice if we're called upon to do so. And the academies may, if they choose to do so, teach RE according to our agreed syllabus. But if they're not an academy with a faith foundation, they are required to teach according to an agreed syllabus from among any one of the syllabuses that have been adopted within the country, which complies with the general rubric that I've already mentioned. So they are required to, and Ofsted inspections should, among other things, be taking note of whether they are compliant in that respect.
Ofsted do something called deep dives into certain subjects in the curriculum. I have a database of the deep dives that Ofsted have done. So it might be that in this last term they did 90 inspections and they did 89 deep dives in maths or English, but looking at the figures, they only did 5 deep dives into religious education. But looking at the figures, in Staffordshire there are 124 maintained schools, and when we launched the agreed syllabus, 119 of those maintained schools came, which is good news, isn't it? It's not bad. Yeah. They sent apologies. Then we have 281 academies. And so the way I look at that, I look at this workforce data that I referenced earlier on to see which schools are actually teaching religious education through the workforce data, because they say about the hours they spend on it. Where there is a 0, where the school states they spend no time, I then go onto their school website. And then I check for each year group what it is they're doing within the curriculum, because by law they have to state what they're teaching on their website. So I do check all of those things. Then I cross-reference that with the examination results. So if they've got, for instance, John Taylor High School is not a faith school, but it has the highest entries, doesn't it, for religious education. So that gives us some hope for the future. So you can see I am trying to keep an eye on it, but it isn't easy because they change names, then they become academies, they were maintained, and then they change names again. And so trying to keep track of which school is where and how has not been easy, but we are trying our best, aren't we, as a SACRE, to do this.
To look at page 50, was it 50 something or 57, where the document that the REC has put out lists the purpose of study. It's the paragraph on the purpose of study. It's page 57. And thanks, Gabby. This is intended to set out what a pupil should be entitled to receive as their RE diet, if you like, as their RE offering. And it's quite comprehensive, but it is very much open-ended, if I can put it like that, deliberately open-ended. The rich diversity of religion and non-religion, pupils' curiosity and interest in this diversity, how worldviews work. That means worldviews, both religious and non-religious, how they work to influence individuals and communities and societies. Develop awareness that learning about worldviews involves interpreting significance and meaning, and so on and so on. Appreciation of the complexity of worldviews, sensitivity to the problems of language and experience, how you can actually study these areas to enable pupils to identify positions and presuppositions of different academic disciplines, their implications for understanding, relationship between religious worldviews and the arts, interrogating the sources of their own developing worldviews. So this is very much a kind of internal inquiry there, how they may benefit from exploring the rich and complex heritage of humanity, and then pupils reflecting on the relationship between their personal worldviews and the content study. So it's quite a kind of deep philosophical, if you like, set out of what RE is, they think in this document should be about. And it's very likely that this document will govern how RE is seen and how RE teachers are prepared, and how local SACREs are expected to respond in the future. It isn't law, it isn't statute. We aren't bound by it, but this is the way that the thinking in the teaching profession, the RE teaching profession, is going. And I think it's very difficult to find fault with any of those listed purposes, those dotted purposes. But it's more the ethos and the kind of pedagogy, if you like, the manner in which the subject is being approached. It's being approached, if I can put it, rationally rather than empathetically. You're not being invited to explore what it means to be a Christian or a Muslim, or if you come to that, a humanist, in the way in which you were being invited to in more recent RE, it seems to me. However, this is just for SACRE to be invited to take note of this document at this time, and to take leisure in looking at it and reading it and the supplementary material that you've got here that Mary has very thoughtfully provided. If you do have any comments or questions, please say. You'll gather that I'm revealing myself, my horns are coming out as something of more of a traditionalist than I used to be on some of these things. Okay, well, we move on to item 12, SACRE Annual Report, another major document. And many thanks to Mary again for preparing this report. It's a report of what happened in the Sacre and in schools in the year 22 to 23. So it is a little bit old hat already,
Yeah.
and it always is. So we take that as said, really. But this is going to be a public document. It's an account of Sacre to the local authority, first of all, the county council, but also to the schools in the county, and therefore this is an exercise in us being accountable and in declaring to ourselves and showing to the local authority and to schools how we've attempted to carry out our obligations, our duties, our responsibilities. It also goes to the Secretary of State, think I have to say. And it also goes to NASICA, and we do have at the moment, whether we can continue to afford it, I don't know, but NASICA at the moment is paying somebody as a consultant to analyse all the annual reports and to draw out some trends and some issues from this, and this is proving quite valuable. So, Mary, yes.
So what we normally do at this point is we say, please go through the annual report. All it is a culmination of the minutes over the last so many years, well, over the year, and plus information from today, which was historical, but we didn't have all the information on the examinations, but I've put that in. And we usually say that if you want anything changing or there's something within this report that you're not happy with, that you contact the clerk within 10 days of this meeting if you want any amendments made. And then I send it to Tim Moss, and Tim Moss then looks at the report and he makes amendments as he sees fits. And then, in case I've put a number wrong about the number of schools or something along those lines. And then, as Michael says, it goes out to all the bodies and it's given to the schools through something called the e-bag, the electronic bag. So that's the process. Yeah. So are you all right with that, Simon, if people send you information, and Joe?
It's as much for mistakes in the typing. We used to have, yes, a gentleman who was very good at going in detail through a document like this and finding all the typos.
The Oxford comma.
Yes. So thank you to Mary, and are you happy for this to go ahead and for people to put in suggestions as necessary? It's not the final version, it's got to go through other bits of sieve first. And Tim Moss, who was mentioned, is the person who occupies the responsibility for schools, the equivalent of the person who used to be called the Director of Education for the county. But the title has changed, I think.
Yes, it is in here.
Yeah. Deputy or something, Assistant.
The Assistant Director for Education Strategy and Improvement.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you very much. We're actually managing to finish before 4 o'clock, hopefully. Sacre budget, item 13. Is there anything that we need to take note of here, Mary?
Only that now Entrust won't be taking the money directly from this budget to pay for the workshops. So we will pay for the workshops through something called purchase order numbers, which is a really good idea because there's Sacre, whatever is paid on the purchase order number is paid. There's no additional on costs. So, so I need your blessing to apply for purchase order numbers so that I can pay the trainers, if that's all right with you. We can't carry forward any of the budget money, so I am making sure that we have as many workshops as possible between now and April the 6th. Also, what will happen is into this budget will appear the £6,500. and that work will also have to be done through purchase order numbers. So as long as I've got your blessing and I keep perhaps a separate...
Carried over then?
That I have checked that, yes. I wrote to the finance officer 8 days ago to ask, and they said any grant money can be carried forward. If we receive the grant, which I'm pretty certain we will receive 2 payments, one of 3,000 into December to January, and then the rest of it into the other financial year anyway. So that's going to be fine. So I just need a minute to say that you give me authorisation to apply for purchase order numbers within the budget amounts, if that sounds...
Agreed?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Item 14, applications for variation of practice. This relates to the right that parents have to ask the school to provide a variation of practice in relation to collective worship. We have received no applications for a variation of practice, but I have to include that as a statutory regular running item. Dates of the next meetings have been issued there, and thanking you for your attendance and for your contributions and for your commitment to the work of RE in our schools. I thank you very much and declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.